Alrighty, boys, we are back again. I actually just uploaded a video going over my live reaction over the whole Kled rework bruiser changes. So if you want to check that out, I definitely recommend checking out the whole video. But this video is just going to be TLDR of all the changes. As you can see here, there's a nice little notepad of all the stuff, which will just get me to summarize the changes of Bruiser Kled in short instead of having a 1.5 hour video of me reacting to the thing. Because I had some people ask me if I could just go over the changes a little bit quicker. But yeah, if you guys didn't know, Kled is getting bruiser changes finally. He's going from being kind of forced right now as a assassin because of how his scalings are into being shifted more as a fighter and actual bruiser champion like how he was supposed to be designed to begin with. So this is going to be dropping on the PB either later tonight or tomorrow, but the actual patch isn't for around like 3 weeks or so. So it's not going to be the next patch that drops. It's going to be the patch after. So it's not going to be for a little while, but we're getting changes finally that we've been waiting for literally like the last like 8 months. We've been asking for changes for Kled because he's felt really, really bad ever since they nerfed items like Profane Hydra, for example. So thankfully, Riot has finally decided to put some thought into Kled and do some things. And let me check actually. I forgot what Riot was exactly because he's the one that actually did it. So let me pull up the video quickly. It is Riot Endstep. Riot Endstep was the one who actually did most of these changes. So shout out to him. He also was able to interact with streamers like or Kled players like Soul Mario with a lot of input to like help with these changes. So the changes are pretty good. And yeah, let's just get right into them now. So first, we're gonna go into the passive. Now, like at the moment, how Kled's passive works is what you want to build up the 100 courage, right? With like getting the courage off autoing enemy champions and your Q hitting them, all that kind of stuff, right? But basically, when you hit 100 courage right now, um, you don't actually get Skarl's HP right away for the remount. It's after the 0.75 duration or whatever it is. I forgot the exact number, but there's like a duration of the remount animation before you actually get the health. But in this rework, actually, you're getting the HP from when you hit 100 courage instantly. So it's an instant remount pretty much now for the HP, which is a huge buff. Because there's so many times where you'll just die when you're in the remount animation, and it feels really, really bad. So this is actually a really nice buff, which is going to be really nice to play with, right? Another big change, and one of the main things that they're going to be doing with a lot of these changes is bonus HP scaling on Kled. And with this one, when you're dismounted, you're actually going to be gaining armor and MR based off of bonus HP, which is also increased by 20% by each nearby enemy champion. Which can I zoom? Let me see if I can zoom in to this picture because this is kind of hard for me to do. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, let me do F11. There we go. I should do it like this, just so we can read it easier. But yeah, so basically, you're gonna be getting 1% bonus, or one based off 1% bonus HP. So for every 1,000 bonus HP you build in items, you're gonna be gaining 10 armor and MR, which is increased by 20% for each nearby champ, so you can get up to 2%. So say you're in a team fight and there's 5 enemy champs around you, and you have say let's just say 1,000 bonus HP, but it's gonna obviously be more. But just say per 1,000 bonus HP that you have, you're gonna be gaining 20 armor and MR, which is pretty nice, but it also doesn't seem like super insane. So, and he did say in the video that I reacted to earlier that they are looking to still tweak some numbers and stuff, so these are not final, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they do buff this number, but it is nice that you're gaining some resistances when you're dismounted, which is going to be pretty nice. So it's a nice change for sure, and it's definitely going to be helpful as like in the mid game especially. I think another big change, which is really nice, is they're changing the minion kill for courage from 4 to 5 because for some reason right now when you kill enemy minions, you only gain 4 courage instead of the interval of 5, which is what all of your other things are, right? When you auto an enemy champion, you get 15 courage, which is an interval of 5. When you auto attack an turret, you get 5, which is also an interval of 5, right? And then your Q, each pellet is worth 5 courage. So this is a nice quality of life buff, and also it's a pretty big buff in general because every 4 minions you kill now, you're gaining an extra like pretty much minion worth of killing, right? Or every 5 minions, I mean, right? Or no, is it 4, 5? Yeah, every 4 minions. I'm just like, it's like equivalent to you killing an extra minion when you're trying to remount. So it's a pretty nice change, and it just won't make it so you're gonna randomly be at 99 courage and die, right? Like you'll actually get to the 100 courage if you're close enough to it, which is a nice change. The one big nerf though is they're actually making it so now you're not getting any courage when you dismount or when you get a takedown. So this is a pretty big nerf because right now, say you damage an enemy champion within the last 3 seconds of them dying, you gain 20 courage, which is really big. Like when you're like in a fight, right? Especially like in a like 1v2. So it is a little bit harder to remount off of like just killing a champ right away. But with the extra like stats you're gaining from this other stuff, I think it should be okay, especially since you get the health right away. But it is a pretty decent nerf though. Another big change though, is they are making it so right now on current Kled, when you dismount, you're actually only doing 80% damage on your auto attacks, which I'm assuming a lot of Kled players don't even know about because it's it's kind of like hidden with that unless you actually like read into the passive a lot. But right now, on the current patch, you only do 80% damage on your auto attacks to enemy champions. But on this new patch and rework, you're actually going to be doing 85% at level 1, all the way up to 100% based off of levels 1, 6, 11, and 16. So mid to late, like mid game, especially like level 11, you're going to be doing a significant amount of extra damage when you're dismounted with your auto attacks, which is going to feel really nice. You will see later on though, in like the Q changes and stuff, they are nerfing the actual Q based damages and stuff. So this is to compensate it a little bit for the dismounted damage that you're going to be losing on your abilities, but it still is a really nice change, and it's going to be pretty big early on, I think, and in the mid game. So it's nice for sure. They also changed the dismounted move speed, so when you're just walking around, right, and not going towards an enemy champion, you're actually going to be 20 move speed quick faster now. But in return, when you're actually running at an enemy champion, you're going to be losing 10% or 10 move speed from what you're getting right now. So when you're just walking around the map, so you're just trying to like walk to like the river or something, and you're dismounted trying to get honey fruit, you're going to be a little bit quicker. But when you're actually chasing an enemy champion, you're going to be actually down 10 move speed, which is a little annoying, but I think it's a decent trade-off, honestly. They also made the range of like when you detect how close when you're running towards an enemy champion, it's up 200 range, so you will get it a little bit quicker. But I think the change is fine. It's whatever. Next off, we have the Skarl changes, HP changes, which what they're doing is they're making Skarl's base health lower a bit because of these changes. So you're not gaining as much health per level on Skarl. But obviously you're going to be building a lot more HP items now, so it's not going to feel super bad. But it is a significant, like a decent nerf because it's also scaling based off stat progression instead of linear scaling. So linear scaling means it's just a flat amount at each level that you're gaining, so you get the same amount of HP per level. But with the stat progression thing, basically what it means is in the earlier levels you're gaining less HP compared to like so levels like 1 to 10, I think, or 1 to 11, whatever the interval is, you're going to be getting a little bit less. So say you would gain, uh, what would say, like 100 health per level. It would actually only be like 80 health per level earlier on, and it would scale up to like 120 like in the later levels, something like that. So you are going to be a little bit squishier in terms of like the actual base HP on Skarl, because they also are just flat nerfing the flat amount of HP that you're gaining, and also the remount HP is a little bit lowered. But because of all these compensation buffs, it's not that big of a deal. So I think it's fine. And then also when you dismount, the invulnerability is just a flat 0.75 seconds now. Before it was like kind of like iffy, where like it wasn't exactly the same time, but it's just 0.75 seconds now on the invulnerability when you dismount, which is nice. They just have a flat amount. But overall, these passive changes are pretty nice. As I mentioned, I do think this armor MR thing might get buffed because it doesn't seem that insane. It seems kind of whatever and iffy. So they might buff this. We'll see. But other than that, I think the changes are fine. It does kind of suck that we're not getting the courage on takedown anymore, but this minion thing is very nice, and then also the auto attack damage is very nice. But yeah. Now let's move on to his dismounted Q, which there's some pretty decent changes on this. They are nerfing the damage as I mentioned, so your Q isn't going to do as much burst damage now. But in return, they are actually making the CD of the Q ammo early on 2 seconds shorter, which is pretty nice for like lanes like Jax, for example, where you're not gonna be able to auto attack him as much. So it's gonna allow you to remount a little bit easier, which is nice. But it is a little bit of a longer CD later on in the game, but I think it's a decent trade-off because it's gonna help you with laning a bit more. You do lose out, as I mentioned, on a bit of AD, like a bit of damage, because the AD scaling's down 15%, and what is this, 27%, I believe. Yeah. So it is a little bit less burst damage you're getting out of your Q, but since you're getting the extra damage on your W, or like when you're just auto attacking dismounted now, it is a decent trade-off. So you're not just relying only on like Q poke damage now when you're dismounted. You actually will do decent damage when you're dismounted as well. But the main big buff here for both the dismounted and mounted Q is they finally coded it now, so your Q actually starts inside of you now. So for the longest time, when an enemy champ like Jax would jump on top of you and you tried to Q him, your Q would just go right through him and it wouldn't give you any courage or anything and wouldn't damage him. But they finally coded it now, so if an enemy champ is on top of you when you Q, it's actually going to land onto them and give you the courage. Same with the mounted Q, it's going to lock onto them. So this is a really big quality of life buff, and it's going to feel really, really nice for like trying to remount against those specific champs that can just dash on top of you or like sit on top of you. It's not going to feel like you're just getting scammed out of like a remount, for example, now. So it's a pretty nice buff. And yeah, it's the same with the mounted Q as well. Like they just nerfed the AD ratios a bit, and the actual base damage is a little bit lower. So you have a little bit less burst. They also did remove Grievous now on the poll, which I'm completely fine with. I know some people are like, oh, what? Why are they removing this? Because like it can be nice in very, very specific niche matchups like Warwick, for example. But I just don't think it's needed, bro. And there's so many other changes that they're doing to compensate for this that it's whatever. I'd rather get rid of the Grievous wounds, so our Q's no longer to have Grievous on the poll, which is completely fine. They also are making it so the Q pull timer is exact instead of, as I mentioned earlier, with like the dismounted timer thing. It's just going to be a flat amount, which is good. It's not going to be RNG. And some other changes they did was they made the slow on the Q 10% lower, but the huge buff because of this is there's an extra 1 second in slow duration now. So this is going to allow you to potentially get like an extra auto or two off if you Q as soon as you're going to dismount, right? So then the pole goes off when you dismount, you're going to be able to remount a lot easier now against those champs. So it's actually a really big buff. So you're losing out on a bit of damage and you don't have Grievous anymore on the pole. But in return, you're getting a longer slow duration for a little bit less of the actual value. But overall, it's a pretty big buff in that regard. And on top of that, if you have Conquer, for example, right now with how it works is as soon as you land your Q onto them, it doesn't matter if you start stacking Conquer and get more AD. The actual damage of the Q is already locked on the pole. So like say you are gaining Conquer stacks, you're not actually getting that extra damage off on the Q pole. But now they've coded it so if you do have Conquer, for example, or you're gaining AD during the Q tether like being attached, you're going to get the extra damage that you would have gotten, which is nice. And then yeah, the thing I was talking about earlier with the Q, now when champions are on top of you, your Q will actually land instead of going right through their skull. So these are pretty big buffs. Although you're losing a little bit of damage, the slow is huge. Like this is gonna be a really nice buff. So I think overall these are good changes again. Like so far, I'm very happy with these changes. And now we move on to the W. When you look at W's cooldown going down from 11 to 5 to 13 to 9 seconds, like you'd think, holy, that's a huge nerf, right? Because it does seem like a huge nerf on paper. But what they're doing now is when your W is on CD, every time you auto attack an enemy champion, it goes down 1.5 seconds, which is huge. And it also goes down 0.5 seconds when you just auto like a minion or turret or something like that, which is actually absurd. Because when you think about this is a flat 1.5 no matter what. So if you build haste and you have like, say, 100 ability haste, which is 50% CDR, this 13 seconds already gets cut down to like 7.5 seconds, right? Or no, 6.5 seconds, right? And then on top of that, with these autos, if you auto, say, 2 or 3 times, you're cutting off literally half the cooldown instantly, and it's pretty much going to be like always up, and it's going to feel the same as this, if not even better. So you're actually gaining more CD as the game, like if you are able to build some haste as well, which is pretty nice. So I think this is actually a really good change, and it's going to feel really insane. They're also nerfing the AD ratio on the W a little bit, but in return, they are giving it % health damage, like what they're doing with the Armored MR. So this is why they're trying to incentivize building Bruiser now instead of lethality, and lethality is going to be a lot worse now because they're reducing a lot of the actual AD ratios. But in return, now you're getting a % health ratio. So the more health you build, like with the Bruiser items, say like Titanic, for example, that gives a lot of health and AD, the more % health damage you're going to get on your W alongside some of your other abilities as well. So Titanic Hydra, for example, is going to be a really insane item on Kled now because of these changes, and it's going to feel really good. But yeah, so for the damage, as I mentioned, they are changing it from just having % AD, like bonus AD for the % health, to now having still an 80 scaling ratio, but it is nerfed. Like it's going from 20 bonus AD to 50. So it is a decent AD nerf thing, right? But you're also getting 1% max health damage for every 250 bonus HP, which with an item like Titanic Hydra, that's 600 HP, you're already getting almost 2.5% bonus damage like max health damage under W proc on your 4th auto instantly, alongside obviously still having the AD and stuff. So it's actually really insane on with items like Titanic Hydra. So your W is gonna do a ton of % health damage later on in the game. So it's gonna be really nice. And then also a nice quality of life buff is right now on the current server, if live servers, if you're autoing like an enemy ward, it'll put your W on CD. But with this changed, it's making it so you still will get the attack speed from your W, but it's not going to put it on CD. So it's nice for like being able to kill wards and not have to like waste your W on it. So overall, this is another really good change. You're gonna end up doing decent damage still with your W, alongside also having the ability of regenerating your W. By just like auto attacking enemy champs or minions, right? And for spell pushing too, it'll help a bit. But they are trying to incentivize Kled to team fight a bit more with these changes. But I still think side laning on Kled will still be like relevant in a lot of situations, so I think that still will be fine. But yeah. Now moving on to the E. The damage on E is also getting nerfed, like the ratio by 10%, so it is a little bit less damage, which is fine, because whatever, you don't really care about your E damage anyways. But a nice quality of life change they're doing is they're actually giving a indicator on the recast of like the range of your E. So you can actually see where, like how far the range of your E2 activation is, instead of like just having to guess that your E is still in range. So it's going to be nice for that, for being able to actually recast your E. So it's going to be nice. And it's also going to tell you how long you have to recast the E as well. So it's going to be a lot easier to like know when you can recast your E2 and if your E2 is going to run out of range in time, right? Or if it's going to just fizzle out. So it's some nice quality of life changes. You're just getting a little bit of a damage nerf, but I think it's overall it's fine since you're getting all these other changes that are nice. But yeah, now moving on to the ult. The big change with the ult is it's actually going to be doing magic damage now instead of physical damage. Everything else is still doing physical damage. Like it's all this going to do the same damage output as it was doing before. But the ult is actually going to be doing magic damage now, even though it is still going to be scaling off of bonus AD. Or, yeah, bonus AD and bonus health actually now, which is another change. Instead of it just scaling off AD, it's scaling off of bonus health as well. So it's going to be really nice again, and it's why you're going to be building a lot of Bruiser items, because the ult, W, and passive all scale off of bonus HP now, alongside obviously still having physical damage or AD scaling options as well. And yeah, it's to help incentivize you to build more Bruiser items. So it's not gonna like make it so lethality is gonna make you one shot with your ult anymore, right? Instead, now you're gonna be doing a lot of extra damage if you're building max like extra HP items. Because lethality before, like on this current patch, since your ult is physical damage, it will actually allow you to like one shot potentially sometimes with your ult because of the lethality getting applied onto the physical damage. But now it does magic damage, lethality, and armor pen doesn't actually matter for it. So in return, they are giving it more just like flat bit damage per level, and also giving you the HP damage scaling. So it's gonna be good overall, I think. It's definitely not gonna be able to like completely one shot anymore, right? Because you're not gonna be going full damage like lethality builds anymore. But it's still gonna do a decent amount of damage, and it's still gonna be good overall. And they also are adding a ping to it, so you can like ping your ult to like show if you're in range of like your teammates and stuff, so they know if you're able to ult or not. Because right now, most people don't even know what Kled's ult range is, so those like ping you to ult even though you're not even in range. So that'll be a nice like communication like buff or change as well, you know. But yeah, overall, I mean the changes look pretty nice. I'm gonna hopefully be able to play on PB later tonight if they do go live, because they haven't said exactly when it's going live. They said it's either going to be tonight or tomorrow on the PB. So hopefully the changes will be out tonight on PB, and I'm going to start doing some testing. I'll probably do a Twitch and a YouTube live stream at the same time, and then I'll also upload some videos once I do get onto the PB once it goes live. And I'll do some build testing like with a lot of different like variations of stuff. I'll probably try to do some like damage variations still with Bruiser items, and then like full Bruiser options, and maybe even put in like Heart Steel and stuff to see how it feels. But yeah, let me know down below what you guys think about these changes. And if you guys have any questions about anything, let me know. I can try to explain if you're confused about any of these changes. But yeah, I'm really excited. Glad to see that Kled finally got some love. And yeah, I'll see you guys hopefully later today for some Kled build testing with the new changes. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.